Yeah, worked with blind and visually impaired? No. Are we doing this right now?
Yeah, you're good.
Hi guys, I'm John. Do we want to do intros? Or?
Yes.
Okay. I'm John Wayno. I am the manager of the contact center for Lighthouse Works here in Orlando, Florida.
He's my manager, and as y'all
And this is Sasha Fierce / Sophia and Quincy down below, all in the office.
And I wanted to talk to you about we worked in call centers before. And how has it been for you working with blind and visually impaired people?
Other than you, it's been awesome. No, so let's take a step back. So my dad has had 2 torn retinas, and he has had cataracts in one eye as well. So I haven't worked with blind or visually impaired individuals. However, my dad, I wouldn't say he's blind. I would say he's visually impaired from a standpoint of depth perception a lot. And over the last 7 years, that's been degenerative for him. So I knew some of the things that had to do with it. However, I've never worked with individuals that are blind and visually impaired. But what I can tell you is, I think that working with individuals that are blind and visually impaired is great. And what I will say about that is, I think coming into it, what I was told by individuals that are blind and visually impaired is that they wanted to be treated in such a way that they are adults like anybody else, right? So I've kind of taken that to heart since day one and been focused on, holding them to holding our entire organization to a standard that it doesn't matter if you're sighted, you're blind, you're visually impaired, whatever, right? We have to get to a standard of excellence that would make individuals and organizations want to work with us, whether we are blind or visually impaired or we are sighted. It doesn't matter.
And he really has not treated us any special because I move every 2 weeks.
That's right. So it's like musical chairs around our contact center. And what we usually do is, for our contact center, we organize it in a way that makes a lot of sense with newer hires or individuals that are struggling to be around team leads. And then individuals that are self-sufficient, or individuals that are, really getting everything that they need and they really don't need excessive help. We move them away from team leads so that our team leads have less running around to do, and it makes it more efficient. So one of the things that I can say is, working with blind or visually impaired individuals, it's just been a different way of thinking in every way that we operate the contact center. So efficiency usually happens in ways in an entire sighted community different than it does here. So we usually don't do the musical chair thing. But because we have individuals that or a high group of individuals that are blind and visually impaired, a high level of population that is blind and visually impaired, we use the chairs in a strategic way to make it more efficient, so that our handle times and our speed to answer and everything like that, right, sets people up for success. Does that make sense? So instead of having it in an environment where people are static and it doesn't really move that often, because people are visual, like have full vision and they can just get there quickly, we have then looked at it in the opposite way, as like, okay, so how can we make this the most efficient possible with the most amount of structure around where we seat people and how we seat them? That makes sense?
Yeah. Well, since you've been here, what has been the thing that has surprised you the most? What didn't you expect?
What didn't I expect? From what aspect?
As far as the interaction, and just dealing with a different group of people altogether.
What didn't I expect? Well, I don't think it has anything to do with blind or visually impaired individuals, as much as we were in a state where we had about 28, 30 individuals that were part of the contact center. And we had to scale that to about 100 individuals rather quickly. And it was an ignorance factor, not of anybody's, it's not their fault, but nobody knew what a scale looked like at that level. And I've been privileged enough to be at that level, right? So the amount of policies, procedures, amount of interaction and communication strategies, everything like that that we had to put in, that was probably the biggest shock and awe factor, because at the very beginning, I would talk and speak to our leadership team as if they knew that stuff already. And I had to take a step back and really kind of go back into a more granular level to get everybody on the same page of what fundamentally it looked like to have a full-blown strategy on communication, what updates were like on a regular basis, what coaching and development looked like, how often it should be, what the standard should be, what key performance indicators really need to be looked at, right? Based on the different campaigns that we looked at. So from a blind and visually impaired perspective, I think that we didn't know what we didn't know, right? And it really had nothing to do with blind and visually impaired. It had everything to do with us as an organization not being at that level ever before, to go from 25 to 30 individuals to 100 individuals. Now we're at 130 individuals. And as you get larger and as you scale larger, the communication factor just needs to become more and more and clearer, and expectations need to be clear so that everybody's on the same page and working towards one true north, right? So whether you're blind or visually impaired or sighted, communication can be different, right? I think for blind and visually impaired individuals, we need to be auditory a lot more. We need to be able to have clear and concise messages rather than long-winded emails that a screen reader needs to read all the time. But we need to be extremely clear in our expectations and hold to those expectations, right? I will say, flipping the script a little bit, flipping your question, I think one of the things that has been very different from the organization's perspective is that we've held people accountable in ways that we haven't had before, because individuals wanted to be held to the same standard as everybody else, right? So it comes with two sides. One is that, we're going to give you the autonomy and the responsibility and all that type of stuff, but at the same time, we're going to hold people accountable to the level that you've asked, right? And we're going to treat people like adults. So I think that's been the biggest change, and I'm sorry for the very long-winded answer.
It's okay. So there's not two sets of rules. Everybody's following the same thing.
No, nor should there be. Because I think that if you have two sets of rules, then there's ambiguity and grayness to the level of expectation, right? Because then everybody's like, well, I'm here and I should be here. Well, maybe I should be here. And if everybody's real clear about what our expectations are, and for you guys out there, we literally look at 3 key performance indicators very heavily. One is the attendance by which somebody is at our organization. The next is their adherence to their schedule, and the next is quality assurance scores. And those are the 3 big ones. Now, we do look at average handle time, we look at speed to answer, we look at all those key performance indicators that would go with a call center. But from a performance standard, those 3, attendance, adherence, and quality assurance, are the massive 3 that if we can get those done really, really well, we'll have people that are here often, they're working at the schedules that they can to handle the call volume that we have, and they're going to be doing a really good job and have high quality on those calls to make sure that the customer is taken care of.
So this is a very high volume call center. Do you know about how many calls?
Yeah, so at any one given time, right, from one of our campaigns' perspective on premises, we will have about 15 to 20,000 calls, but the average handle time is rather high on those because that customer is focused on first call resolution and not so much average handle time, meaning they don't care how fast you go with the customer as long as everything is taken care of with that customer, right? And then other customers will handle anywhere from 27 to about 40,000 calls. Now the average handle time is lower because of the information that goes along with it, so it's not as involved. But again, our niche in the market is not very high turn and burn calls, but different campaigns that are set up for high customer experience, high positive customer experience, and first call resolution. So I think one of the greatest things about our organization is we have very smart, empathetic listeners, right? Yeah. So the blind and visually impaired community it is just wonderful at listening to people over the phone, really understanding what they're going through, validating what they're going through, and then being able to provide a resolution. So if we were going to speak on blind and visually impaired community, just as a whole, one of the biggest positives that I can say is the quality by what goes on calls for first call resolution is immense relative to a normal call center. And truly, because we're a third-party vendor call center, that's what we talk about when we try to sell our solutions and our product to prospective clients.
So you could be calling the company and who knows, you might get one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
To help. So what would you say the percentage is of with Lighthouse right now?
Yeah, so I actually know the exact percentages. We're at 67% blind or visually impaired versus sighted on a holistic basis. Now, on individual campaigns, we have different variable percentages, but holistically, we're at 2/3.
And the unique thing about Lighthouse is during our onboarding, we do what's called blind basics, and I help with that doing for sighted people to let them know to try to help them to become more comfortable working around because some people they've never been around blind people before.
Yeah, and I think we're doing a much better job of integrating that into our training, as well as having an integrated workforce. So from study after study, it is shown that an integrated workforce creates a positive culture for both sets of individuals, those that are blind or visually impaired and those that are sighted, right? And I think for a long time, there was this feeling that the blind and visually impaired just need to be around the blind and visually impaired for them to be related to, where I think we do a tremendous job of integrating both blind and visually impaired individuals and sighted individuals to create an atmosphere and a culture that individuals really respect each other for just who they are rather than the disability that they have.
Can I add something to that? Me being an employee here and shadowing,
I'm taking the camera.
Okay. No, it's on me.
Oh, now you're on.
Me being an employee here and, actually working with visually impaired, even though my mother is visually impaired, it's a little bit different. But when I actually started shadowing them, they pay more attention to detail than, a sighted person would. They actually get into the issue, help you out, and give a deeper understanding of it. And I think that's a lot better than what some of the other employees would do, because they don't really think into the fact of, they'd have to look into it and, actually listen to what's going on. Sometimes people skip over it, but they listen to everything and they can pick it up and they'll explain better to me because, being visually impaired, they have to go into more detail. So more detail I get, the better I understand. So I think it's a pretty good thing of having us mixed together and working with them and them working with us because we can help each other out. So I think it's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
What else you got, Sasha Fierce?
Do
they know you as Sasha Fierce, your YouTube community?
They know about Sasha, but they know me as So Sensational.
Oh, okay. So she is So Sensational, Sasha Fierce, Sophia that has the dog Quincy. She has like 6 names.
Did you show Quincy?
Of course, he always loved the camera.
Yeah, all I do is yell Fierce and she comes a running.
Tell us us about the other contracts across the country. How many people we got working up?
Yeah, so we have individuals working in 12 different states at this point. We're about to add the 13th, New Mexico. We have a wonderful contract with an organization that is in the hospitality market that we do dining reservations for. And they have just been phenomenal advocates and champions with us in being able to help us grow that base. So what my goal is to make sure that our mission gets out there to the point that individuals that can't have a position or a job somewhere around the nation, they have the ability to have something that they're making competitive wages in an employment sector that is really growing with technology. Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool.
So if you thought that being blind or visually impaired would stop you from working, it won't.
Yeah, and what I would tell you is if you are in the nation right now and you are blind and visually impaired, I think technology is your friend. So if you have a organization that is close to you that can help you with your AT skills, I think that is going to be the next step for you. Just because I think the entire job market is going to more of a tech savvy environment with services. And I think with the help of those AT instructors and with the help of that AT growth, you'll be much more marketable. And Sophia's a living example. We have so many individuals that are living examples that we have really done a good job as an organization to cultivate those that have gone through our AT instruction, that have gone through our services, and have come to us as the social enterprise and gotten very good at their positions.
Mm-hmm. So he's right. I'm a lighthouse cheerleader, and that will be a living witness. You have to learn, like you said, the technology. Any type of screen reader that you use, whether you're completely blind or just needed to be enlarged.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think from an aspect of, I think what you do is phenomenal, Sophia, that you're having this channel and getting awareness out there. But I also think that this is a great platform to be able to show individuals that if you are blind and visually impaired, there are organizations out there that really, really want you as part of their organization. And again, I'm very, very careful in the way I say that, because it's not just because you're blind or visually impaired. It's because you're a wonderful human being. You can provide a great service to other organizations, and really because we've found a niche in our market to be able to provide services to world-class organizations that, in all truth and honesty, if we were a fully fledged sighted contact center, that probably wouldn't be as high quality as if it were integrated with blind and visually impaired individuals leading the way. So again, our organization has individuals top down that are blind and visually impaired, and we are dedicated to the fact that those that are blind and visually impaired just do a fantastic job with the campaigns that we have. And the other cool thing is, once they join our organization, they feel connected with our organization, and they have a structure around them so that it's a win-win situation. One is that you have gainful employment and you have a network of individuals that one can relate to you, but two really have your back. But we as a business then understand that if you enjoy the place that you're working and you're really getting what you want out of life, that you'll stay with us. And for us in the contact center environment, and I'm talking about any contact center environment, one of the biggest pitfalls and downfalls is attrition, keeping people, right? And if we can show the blind and visually impaired community that we are an organization that really cares about them and it's good quality work that they get paid competitive wages for, we truly believe that our retention will remain extremely high, and we can operate efficiently as a business.
Okay.
How'd I do?
You did good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just want everybody to know that it's just not busy work. Like it's call center work.
Yeah. So I guess one thing that I can add into that is that several people have told me, right? I'm not saying it, but several people have told me that there are organizations out there that provide like shelter work, where it's just busy work and it's not as efficient as the sighted community or anything like that. We should be clear that this place is a contact center that generates revenue, and we have a double bottom line. One is that we wanted to redeploy $1 million per year back to Lighthouse Central Florida to give the services necessary to the blind visually impaired community. But two, we want to make sure that we drive enough revenue to be a self-sustaining business and be just as efficient, if not more efficient, than fully sighted contact centers, and we believe we can get there. So we have an organization within ourselves called the Digital Accessibility Services that provides middleware for all of our campaigns that helps our individuals be as efficient on calls, be as efficient in their daily work and everything of that nature. And because of that, we can hold everybody in this organization to the same standard.
You heard it here.
And I can talk a lot.
So I want to thank you so much for your time today, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
And guys, tune in and see all the great things that can go on. Just don't set limitations for yourself, and don't let others do it either.
Yeah, and if I would also say, if you're out there right now and you're like, man, I really want to find a job that has purpose to it, and you just don't know where to go, reach out to us here at Lighthouse Works in Orlando, Florida. We'd love to be able to help in one way or the other. If we're not the employer of choice when you talk to us, totally understand, but we have a network of organizations and agencies that we might be able to help you with. And our mission is to do so.
All right, guys.